Thanks, Steve. And I don't think I've ever followed a minister before, but I get to say this, Eureka, we have legislation. So I hope everybody here is as excited as I am about our next guest, which is Joe Lubin. And I'll have to confess that the most nervous I've ever been public speaking in my career was once trying to read out Joe's bio. So I'm not going to do that today. I think these days he really does speak for himself. And Joe, we're really grateful for your time. Thanks for being here. Where in the world are you?
I'm in Brooklyn, New York City. Hey, Lisa, great to see you.
Great to see you. Well, thank you again. The theme for today is the mainstream moment. And firstly, congratulations on the recent raise and I believe 30 million MetaMask users. That's huge. So what would you say if we were to ask you, do you think the mainstream moment has happened?
I think there'll be many mainstream moments. I think we're having our early mainstream moments, but this is the early days of a paradigm shift where the world is turning upside down, where we're moving from the age of silos to the age of community, and we are building a new trust foundation for the planet in the form of these decentralized, essentially layer one protocols that enables a decentralized finance infrastructure for the planet. And that's going to enable the whole planet to re-architect itself using systems that essentially serve more people more fairly, that enable many more people and more smaller organizations to have real economic and political agency. Yes, cryptocurrencies and DeFi and NFTs especially are crossing the chasm into mainstream adoption. And more recently, I and others have noted that the constructs of our ecosystem are now of national security import. So nation states around the world are all considering this technology, this set of tools, this phenomenon, this paradigm shift really, to be a national security issue. Because if you're not understanding and wielding these powerful tools, you can be confident that your neighbor's probably looking at them and developing expertise. And so many politicians and regulators may not understand, they may not like the tools of our ecosystem, basically because they don't understand them or because they have their own agendas. But they're going to have to come to terms that this is all happening and it is really powerful. And it is now on the main stage, and I guess people don't like certain kinds of technologies, different kinds of weapons. Some people don't even like having too many laws, but they're a reality of our world, and they are all here to stay.
Yeah, great. Thank you. There's so many interesting things you just said. I might just quickly ask you a question about the regulation that our minister just spoke to, really talking about clear and simple regulation. Is that something that you think we'll see globally, or do you think we're in for a sort of a fight across many different planes?
So I believe that decentralized protocol technology is consonant with the way that Western liberal democracies like to architect their systems, consonant with free market capitalism, democracies, etc. And that's especially true at the base layer, where it really is open markets, and because it's a global context, and we talked in the early years of our ecosystem about regulatory arbitrage for different companies. And it really is true for the infrastructure providers in our ecosystem. So very free markets from that perspective. And we used to go to meetups in different places around the world, and no matter where you went, well, at least in the Western world, you would, and I'm considering Australia part of the Western liberal democracy world. You basically see these different groups at the meetups, and whether they were anarchists or libertarians or socialists, they all felt like the technology belonged uniquely to them. And so it's such a powerful technology that you'll be able to build the different kinds of political systems that you want to build. And so in your country, in my country, Canada, in the United States, I do believe that that the regulators and the politicians will come to understand the technology and will not do too much to thwart innovation. There's certainly some that like to slow things down so that they can position themselves, and we're seeing some of that right now. I do believe that there should be regulation at the gateways between, say, the protocols of the United States of America and the protocols of the decentralized protocol ecosystem. But really, there isn't jurisdiction. And in the US, Gary Gensler, the head of the SEC, has asked Congress for jurisdiction so that they can do something. But the way I anticipate it going, and I'm very hopeful here, is that the gateways can certainly be policed. But if you're publishing DeFi software on a global decentralized platform and it's massively decentralized in the US and in similar countries, that's free speech, and that's heavily protected. If you're providing custodial services or other sorts of elements that are currently under the rubric of securities commissions around the world, then certainly some of those things should be regulated. But it's a technology like the internet technologies, and those weren't really policed. Usages of those technologies are sometimes policed.
Great, thank you. Just to touch on something you said at the beginning around a paradigm shift, and you specifically spoke about communities. As we get to these mainstream moments, I mean, one of the characteristics of the whole industry has been this community. Do you think we'll be able to maintain that community aspect? Or do you think this new regulation will see those great communities run off onto the next thing?
I think it's going to be all about communities going forward. It has been, we've lived in an economy and a society that is atoms-based, physical, where you gather materials from around the world, you construct them into products, you sell them, and you rely on an advertising industry to generate sometimes unreasonable demand for those physical products, even where they're not really necessary. And the internet and the web, for the first 20 real years of its existence, as a sort of hangover to that old economy, basically created the biggest global online mall to sell physical products and other kinds of products, and a massive super AI in the form of sort of online digital advertising industry that has come to know us better than we know ourselves, and that. We're just about to outgrow that, I think, and we've just come upon what I think of as the native business model for the internet and the web, and that's about understanding that monetary systems are qualitatively shifting, that the power has always been with the people. It's just that we didn't have systems that enabled us to coordinate lots of people on big projects and create a lot of value. We had to use these vertical coordination systems. Vertical coordination systems didn't admit broad rapid governance, and they also forgot to distribute all the new value that's created immediately and automatically to all the people that supported those projects, whether in a political context or a more commercial venture context. And so we now have these tools, and they're very raw and immature, but we're now able to democratize the governance layer of the planet and democratize the decentralized finance layer of the planet in the same way that the web had some success in democratizing the information layer of the planet. And so absolutely, it's not going to be about who has the money. It's going to be about who has the ideas or something else around which you can form community and use these community governance and treasury management and project execution tools, and then create your own magic internet money, create other kinds of digital assets, and essentially run your community-based project that has your own community members as the inventors and the builders and the consumers of whatever that community cares about. And so it'll be I believe, a lot of overlapping communities that will be involved with going forward.
Thank you. I think we'd all like some magic money. One of the things that you did mention, though, was use the word hangover, and it made my mind leap immediately to emissions and environmental cost of all of this work that we're doing. And obviously that can be an elephant in the room for those of us, including you, who are very passionate about the environment, about disconnecting economic development from carbon emissions. We worked on Project Carbon last year with your team. Do you have a view on the role we can play in helping with climate change or the like? And do you have views on emissions and and all of the things that go with that? Very open question, sorry.
No, that's great. So I mentioned that the previous economy was all about moving physical things around the world. It was essentially a scarcity-based economy, and if you're living in a scarcity-based economy, that's a fear-based economy. We're certainly experiencing it globally right now. We are moving our lives and our economy into the information space, the world of bits, rather than the world of atoms, and so I do believe that there will be a much lighter carbon footprint as we start to create things and value things that are virtual, that we can perceive as apparently physical. And so that's sort of the far-reaching view. The near-term view is that a lot of the transactions that are happening, at least in the Ethereum ecosystem right now, are moving from layer one, which is a proof of work chain, which wastes a lot of computation in order to secure the network and burns a lot of electricity. And they're moving to these much more efficient layer two systems. They're mostly layer two roll-up systems. There are other technologies that are also efficient, but it's mostly roll-ups right now. And that's one first major phase in lightening the carbon footprint. The Ethereum project, probably in June, it may slip into July, is about to accomplish the merge, where we've had Ethereum 1 and Ethereum 2 running simultaneously for quite a while. Ethereum 1 is being renamed the execution chain. Ethereum 2 is being renamed the ConsenSys chain. And the ConsenSys algorithm in Ethereum 1 is going to be excised and replaced by the ConsenSys algorithm from Ethereum 2. And so we're moving from proof of work to proof of stake, which has a lot of benefits. It has scalability benefits and decentralization benefits. It has I think a 99.95% reduced carbon footprint, and that's just it's probably better than that, but that's a calculation that one of our engineers did pretty quickly. And so the Ethereum ecosystem is about to accomplish something that I think no other ecosystem or technology has ever done, which is essentially the biggest, like mind-blowingly large reduction in carbon footprint in, I guess, the history of technology. There are other projects in our ecosystem that are actually looking to pay back the historical carbon footprint of the network. So maybe the world will hear about that pretty soon. But yeah, from an energy perspective, we're really proud of the direction we're going in, and in terms of functionality, scalability, decentralization, it's all going to be so much better.
So good. I'll definitely pledge to join that initiative for sure. I'm sure half the room here will too. One of the things I did want to discuss a little bit today, and looking around this room, it's very relevant. There's about 14 rows of people. I don't know if you can see. And there's not nearly enough women here. And I recently did a panel for ConsenSys for International Women's Day, and we talked about what we could do for the industry. And I noticed last week you've signed up to the Women of Web 3.0 as an initiative. And I was just wondering your views on increasing diversity in the sector and how we encourage equality in general in this new and growing industry.
Yep. So we've put a ton of attention and energy into diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, actually, in our company. So it's great to get all the world's population represented in your company. They also have to feel comfortable, empowered, heard. And we've raised our numbers in terms of gender diversity. We think of ourselves as, so we actually have a footprint in 97% of the countries around the world where people are using MetaMask or other products. And it's really important to us to understand how different cultures perceive what we do and utilize what we do, and how our user interfaces are interpreted or might be misleading. And so we've done a good amount of work and need to continue doing that work to understand how different cultures, so Indonesia, African, South American, we've done some work in how those cultures are essentially experiencing our products. So it's the sort of thing that we will continue to do. We don't believe that we can be a world-leading company unless we look like and understand the different cultures of the world.
Yeah, that's amazing to be global. We have to all look global. I love that. Well, I meant to start with this actually, but I got a bit intimidated by the minister, but she's left now. So we had Mike Novogratz on earlier, and he confessed to being your roommate in college. Now, don't worry, he didn't tell us any stories. However, he did.
All the stories are about Mike.
But he did name drop Jay-Z, and we were waiting for the Kanye moment. So I'll give you a moment to process that if you want to name drop in the next question, which will probably be the final because it is 5-2. But what is your boldest prediction for the future? And if you could name drop as many celebrities, then that would rock.
So let me answer the second question first. We just hired a chief marketing officer, an awesome individual from Spotify. And in the middle of my first interview with him, we were just talking about how we are crossing the chasm into mainstream adoption and all the fun things that are happening in our ecosystem. And I indicated to him that, yeah, we largely think of ourselves as a fintech, like decentralized protocols company. But increasingly, we really need to be a culture tech company, and even maybe sometimes a pop culture tech company, because some of those mainstream influencers can bring a lot of attention to what we're doing. But we actually don't want to do it frivolously. So we don't want to slap our logo on the roof of a sports center. We do want to work with, let's say, sports leagues and build NFT platforms and things like that, and gain recognition that way. But it is more about more broadly the people. And if we do something with celebrities, it will be, I think, less because they're celebrities, but more because they're doing something that is relevant to the technology, and they can, intelligently nudge or direct people in a certain direction, rather than the frivolous sorts of things that might be going on.
He's got to lift his game. Yeah.
So predictions. It's a tough one. So we're basically at the end of a global debt supercycle. Monetary systems are end of life thing. We're at the end of a generational supercycle, for any of you that read the Strauss and Howe work. And the world is broken and over, and we are trying to figure out what the next 100 years is going to look like in terms of systems. We kind of talked about it already, but I strongly believe that the nature of money will change. We're all seeing that it will be a community-based global society and global economy. I think that maybe here's my bold prediction. I think that the power of community and the power of decentralized protocols will turn the world into a set of communities, a set of overlapping communities. Some of them will be nation states, and many of them will be what we do in work and gaming and research and education, and that the community ethos will be powerful enough to overturn or replace any sort of tyrannical ethos that might have power over their communities. And so hopefully that will take hold in some sort of red or blue and yellow revolution at some point pretty soon, or blue and yellow spring or red spring, and fingers crossed 10 years from now we'll have DAOs or more decentralized organizations in major nation states that are very top-down command and control right now.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you. I'm in the room with the Australian community, who's certainly the pioneers of blockchain here, and I know I can speak for everybody here saying we're very grateful for your time. We can't wait for you to come back to Australia, and thank you very much. And if you want to send Mike a text and tell him you kicked his butt, then I think you'll get the vote here. So thanks very much. And I'm just getting booted off by Steve. So yeah, everyone give a round of applause for Joe.
Thanks, Michael.